Yeah, so this was 1995, and then it was not until 1999 that we really made it into a business. I was already in 96, 97. I was actually separating myself from the other daily duties of that general stores and the bakery and all the other things that store was doing. And we hired managers to take care of that. So I was only doing the chocolate, but I was also doing food on the side, catering and private cooking and parties and this and that. And it was a very busy time for me and a very difficult time to make it all, juggle it all. So when my partner came on board 1999 and we actually made it into its registered as a business, now it was completely separate from the general store and moved down to a production facility in Brookfield, Connecticut, and took it from there. It actually became a lot easier from that. Now I had a partner, and now I could fully focus on it. So exactly. So that was the beginning of it as a real business. But at that time, most of the formulas were done already, which was a huge advantage. And I also was fortunate enough that I had a job on the side. I was still, like I said, cooking and doing private functions and all this stuff on the side. So it wasn't. I didn't start from a clean slate and say I have to make all my incomes from that now and borrow money to make this start. It was incredibly fortunate beginning, basically debt-free beginning, and had a place to experiment. Well, I gotta say, very little was planned. Everything was sort of like shooting from the hip and learning as we go for us. And taking on a partner was really a blessing, because I could focus now on all the creative parts of the business, and we used to joke, I do all the creative things and the fun things, and he does the paperwork. So he did a little more than the paperwork, but he took care of the business side of things. We would always discuss everything together, so I was very much aware of that, what he was doing, and he was very much aware of what I was doing. But there's no question that fell under his belt. How that transition was, I can't say that I can pinpoint one thing and say, wow, this was, all of a sudden we realized we had to do all of this to run a business. It kind of just comes in bits and pieces, but it wasn't easy. You know, it just, you know, okay, tax season comes. Okay, we need an accountant. We got our first wholesale customers. Okay, now we need to invoice them. What do we do? Are we giving them 30 days? Are we giving them 90 days? I want to get paid tomorrow. You had to create the structure, if you will. And that's what I'm saying. It was for us, it was day by day. It was day by day. And decision makings were also kind of depending on the mood of that day. It was incredibly, like I said, we were shooting from the hip every day, but it worked, you know. I mean, it's widely encompassing. Is that the word? And so it's all of it, because. I got to be honest, we knew nothing. So I didn't know what rules there are. You know, everything from I need to register with Brookfield to have a license to make food and you know, food products in Brookfield. All of it came to us. So what would I do different? It would just start in a much different planning process where we could actually see, okay, if I started this business today, I kind of am aware of A to Z. I don't have to learn it the hard way. So structuring that would be a huge advantage in terms of time saving, because I have to say 1991, I mean, internet was around, but today you just Google anything and you get all your answers. Back then it was so much research involved in everything that we had to do. So do I need to register with Brookfield? Or if I need to register with Brookfield, maybe I have to register with FDA also. Do I need to? So all of these things, if I did it today, would just be so much easier, because I now know what I need to do. So at that point, back then, I didn't. I can't say I would have done it differently because I just didn't know better. But today, it would be done differently because I know better. Does that make sense? In my part of it, which was to liquidate, if I will, part of my portion of the business to my partner was pretty easy. But keep in mind, I think you're aware that a few years ago, 6 years ago, so we took on a Middle Eastern partner, and we opened stores in the Middle East. So we opened 5 stores in the Middle East. So I went through the entire process then, and then at that point, the answer yes. We had no idea how to do this. We had good consultants. We had good people to turn to, like our minority partner, who is actually a big entrepreneur in New York City, had very much experience and could give us the lawyers and can give us all the help we needed. But I remember it was a tremendous learning curve. Was this a franchise? How were we going to run this? Will they be? So we had to basically took on a partner who were opening their own stores in the Middle East. We wanted to have no financial obligations in those stores, but we wanted control of the product. So how is this set up? We were walking around like 2 big question marks for a long time, and then we met with people on this side in New York mostly, who were experienced in franchising, who were experienced in this type of environment, and it was extremely difficult. But through elbow grease, we got it done, and if we did that today. It proved itself when my partner and I made a strike a deal of him taking some part of mine. It just felt very comfortable. So now that experience had landed and matured, and I realized that these are the things to look out for. But there's a lot of I mean, it's kind of risky if you don't know it. I'm glad we went through that before, if I may say. Yeah, 100%. So my partner's father-in-law, who is a big investor in New York City, has always been a mentor, as far as not so much a mentor as a resource. So he's at such a high level, so we always were able to get people that could help us and consult with us as our needs became more as our needs became bigger and bigger, I would say. Because I mean I think I ran the business for 5 years without even trademarking our logo. When it was in the beginning of people, everybody started websites. When I needed to get our name, bridgewaterchocolate.com, it was taken. Some bastard and bought it just because people bought names, right? They sold businesses, and I had to freaking buy it back from him. So luckily it wasn't like one of those like millions of dollars, but nevertheless. So all of these things were difficult in the beginning, but as it grew and it became more of a serious business, then I would say we were fortunate to always have consulting help in various aspects, whether it was legal, financial, or things as I said, trademark. The only thing I never had help with was all the things that I did, the creative part of the food part of it. Yes, the creative part as websites, etc. Yes, but not the but. That didn't bother me because that's the only area where I felt 100% comfortable. I never felt. I had to really think a little bit about that. So the first one to have any type of expectations was to take on a partner, right? Which was very early on in the business. Now you have somebody who is, when you're just doing it yourself, you may have a couple of employees, they expect to be paid, but that's a different type of expectations, right? So as long as if you can't do that, you shouldn't even be doing it. So then you have a partner who all of a sudden have expectations for, in a much bigger sense. He's creating a life. He's got to have value. This is something that he actually is giving of himself to share with you. So now you feel like an obligation to. Okay, now we need to do this. Now this is real. He has a family, and we need to do this together. It can't just be playing chocolate. So that's the first sense of expectations, which wasn't hard because we got along well and we had sort of the same goals, same objectives, and et cetera. And that was good. When we took on the partners in the Middle East, it was a whole different ball game. All of a sudden, you get phone calls on Monday morning. How is this? What are you doing here? And not only what are you doing and how are you doing, also, we're opening a store. We're opening 3 stores next month. We need chocolate. We were obligated. That was expectations that all of a sudden felt much more painful. So now we have agreed to we didn't call it a franchise, but it's very similar to a franchise. It's a partnership. We had agreed to this partnership. All of a sudden, okay, you do the numbers. We got to double the production in 6 months. So we can get the equipment in, but that takes 9 months. So what do? These expectations were incredibly difficult, and it was probably, I would say, looking back, I would have put in much more guidelines for what we are willing to give you per the first 3 months. You can sell this much, and the next 6 months we kind of just said it's like, oh, great, and they were powerful and had a lot of access to quickly open stores. Luckily, I would say luckily. After 5 stores, we had agreed to 5 stores, and after 5 stores, we could reassess. That was the only rule we had. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been. We would probably have to close American businesses just to not get in legal trouble with them. But that expectation, to answer your question, was really, really hard, and I think that we should have planned it much better, and also understand what all that meant in terms of our own capabilities of production. So it worked, but it was painful. A lot of late nights. Having some kind of metrics, or having some kind of understanding for what it all means. We need to sell X amount of. We can expect. It always starts with the dollar, right? The store needs to sell for X amount of dollars. What does that mean in pounds of chocolate? What does that mean in labor? What does it mean in equipment on our side? And all of those things. If that could have been planned in more detail in the beginning, I think we could have been ahead of the game much quicker than we were. Very much so. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, the profit margin. Right. Instead of selling direct to the consumer, now we're going through our partners, and they basically paying half of the consumer because they got to make their profit. Huge adjustment. The good part of it for us was that the pounds, the increased the increase in production, also in the food business, it also helps freshness, which obviously helps quality in the end. So I really welcomed it because now we sold by the pallet, and we had production was going nonstop. It's a very difficult thing in any food business, but certainly in the chocolate business, because we have such a curves in terms of the seasons. So in the slow season, what do? You can't make all the chocolate in the slow season and wait for 4 months because it's not fresh anymore. So, but this helped us have a rotation in our inventory. So that was the good part of it. But there was good and bad. But yeah, the profit margins went significantly down, right? Even though the end number may still look good because the poundage is so much increased. Absolutely, and also having that in terms of having a better understanding for that, so it would help us with pricing. I think pricing is a very delicate thing. I mean, we used to. I can't tell you how many times we just like go on Godiva and say, what are they charging? All right, so we'll charge the same, or we'll charge a little bit less. It kind of works because I figure they've probably done the homework. But could we be a little more scientific? No, we could be a lot more scientific. Right. So now we do, but that's fairly recent, I have to say. So now we have two. We have a marketing director and a marketing associate or whatever, and we hired a CEO for the first time. So we actually are fairly professional today. But I'm not kidding. It took a lot of years. So for the first 22 years, it's our fortune was in the fact that we always had demand. People were always willing to get our products, and both private and corporate and wholesale. So it was the demand was always a little bit bigger than our production capacity. So we've been lucky. So therefore, we also could put aside some of those like marketing strategies. My partner did a lot of that, but it was not scientific. It was more so that like we would do the local TV channels in commercials in Connecticut. We let them come to us. Comcast people came and told us what you're talking about. Yeah. We didn't do our own, but we just had to trust them. Okay, it reached so many people. This is what you know. But the next step of understanding like how many of those turn into customers and how many, we had no clue. Now we do. Now it's we're much better. I think the technology for it has advanced also so much that you can actually see the result of those things. But that's not my cup of tea. We talk about it and I say, wow, that's cool. I do know now that if you come out of Whole Foods in West Hartford and your income is X, Y, and Z, and you turn on your phone and you go on Instagram, boom, you will see Bridgewater chocolate. But if your income is less than X, Y, and Z, you will see something else. And we can track all those things. And that's I find it really fascinating. I don't know much about it, but those things are all really important for the marketing people to keep track of all the time. And I think that they do a good job at it. But I don't know how many I don't know what they used in order to do all that. But I know it's possible. I don't know for sure, but I do know for certainly that with the knowledge of it, it would put us in a whole different position in terms of being their partner and giving them the material, giving them the knowledge of this works for us in X, Y, and Z, and then it would help them, and it would probably have helped us grow much quicker. Certainly in the beginning, whereas they had sort of start from scratch. They were experienced retailers, but they were not experienced in chocolate. So if we could have been more knowledgeable at that point, of course, it would have been very powerful. I think also having some sort of, and maybe that is what you're telling me as well, having some sort of overview where not just the people that are specialists will always know the answers because they're working with it all day long. But people like me, I don't want to be a specialist in those things. I just want to get a clear understanding and be presented with something that I can understand fairly quickly. So it's an overview of all those things that needs to come back from the individual specialist to us that actually are running the company and maybe have other things on our mind to focus on. That would be very valuable for me because it's I see spreadsheets. Okay, we did the X, Y, and Z, but it's not detailed enough, and more importantly, it's not overviewable enough. Does that make sense? So yeah, that would be, and then you can make together. Then, if we all understand it, if we all sit down at the table and fairly quickly understand what we're looking at, we have something to talk about. But if we first need to learn it all and spend all that time on that, the energy goes wasted. It maybe not wasted, but we don't all have that time. And now it's almost even more important because now I just need to be able to build to have some opinions, and we all talk about things, and we can be value to the CEO who does ultimately make the decisions, right? So no, you're absolutely right. It's that understanding and that overview is now more than ever actually very, very valuable to us.